Hey everybody, welcome. It's Experimental Brew Day, and we're going to take all of this and make something interesting. So, let's get stuck in and roll the intro. Alright, so I have been making a homemade ginger beer for a while. I absolutely love it. But due to medical reasons that I'm not going to go into, I can't really have sugar anymore, or at least not much. And so I kind of stopped making it for a while. So I'm returning to try a little experiment. I want to see if I can make it sugar-free, or nearly sugar-free. All of this will go into it, and then I will, of course, go piece by piece on making this. I am using a cider yeast, that is correct. Probably a champagne yeast is better if you have it or want to buy it. It'll be a little bit finer, like smaller bubbles. But this is what I have, and I'm going to use it because I want to use it up, and it'll be fine. Also, I mean, the brand isn't a big deal on this, but allulose. I'm not going to say a whole lot about allulose except that it's basically a sugar-free alternative that's very similar to regular table sugar. I think it's off by one chemical bond, which makes it so it doesn't really, makes it apparently difficult to absorb into your body. So it's very, very low to almost sugar-free. So that's what we're going to use to sweeten our ginger beer. And then we're of course going to use regular table sugar to just to give it the yeast enough food to carbonate each bottle. So I've never tried it, and we'll see how it goes. I'll be back with step one. Okay, so step one, 400 grams of ginger. Now I'll be honest with you, I always end up with somewhere between 200 and 400 grams because I try to measure it out at the grocery store with the scales that they have, and I just never have exactly the right amount. What I will tell you is I really haven't noticed any difference between whether I put anywhere between 200 and 400 in as far as the taste. So anyway, this is like 360, but for the recipe, which will be in the description, let's just say 400 grams. I use a food processor, as you can see, to chop this up. You don't need to take the skin off because you're just going to soak it or boil it and then strain it out anyway. So there's no need to go to all the extra trouble of taking the skin off. Just stick it in a blender or a food processor and you're done. All right, I'll be back for the next step. All right, everybody, let me tell you where I'm at. So first thing is I threw the ginger in this big pot. Here, let me, all right, so I put the ginger in there. And then I added in, well, so it depends how sweet you want it. You can go up to as much as 700 grams of allulose. I find that that's too sweet for me, so I'm putting 500 grams of allulose. If you wanted to make this as a full sugar version, not sugar-free, you could just swap the exact same amount out for sugar. So instead of like 500 to 700 grams of allulose, you could use 500 to 700 grams of table sugar. What else did I put in here? All my spices. So I put in half a teaspoon of cardamom, half a teaspoon of nutmeg, and eighth of a teaspoon of black pepper. If you've never used cardamom, it may be hard to find. I'm sure you can get it on Amazon. I'll put links to everything I can find on the description. But man, if you have never used cardamom, I'm telling you, you wonder how you ever lived without it once you've smelled it and tried it. It's fantastic. All right, so we added, what else? The sugar, the ginger, the spices. I have an orange that I rinsed off. Try to get organic if you can. Keeps all the pesticides off. I just cut it up, peel and everything into wedges. And then I took 2 lemons and juiced them. So just the juice of 2 lemons are in here. So I'm going to add half the water. So it's going to be a gallon for this recipe total. So I'm going to add in 2 quarts of water, which is should be half a gallon. And then we're just going to simmer this. You don't have to boil it. Just simmer it for about 15 minutes. It gets everything melted and homogenized and blah, blah, blah. All right, so we'll go do that. 2 quarts of water, simmer it for 15 minutes, and then you let it cool. And after we let it cool, we'll go on to the next step, which is pretty close to where we're going to need to be. So I will be back in about 15 minutes when this has finished simmering. All right, guys, so for the next step, you're going to strain it. So you've been simmering it. By simmering it, I mean it should have been like a light boil. So you're still hitting, 100 degrees Celsius or 212 Fahrenheit for that 15 minutes to sterilize and kill any wild yeast and bacteria and whatnot. So that's really what the boil is for, or in this case, the simmer. You don't need to do a full hard boil, but anyway, when you're done with that 15 minutes, you want to basically strain everything out. So what I would do is use like a slotted spoon and just get out the majority of what you can using a slotted spoon, like all the wedges of orange and stuff. And then what I do is I take a sieve, a fine mesh sieve, and I take a milk bag because I make my own almond milk. And I don't even like open the bag. I just put it in here like this, and then I'll just pour through the top of this. So it's really getting filtered through both layers of my milk bag plus the sieve. And that's as much as I'm going to filter this thing. So it'll go into another container, and then you just have the liquid. So for that liquid, you're going to add another, the rest of your water, which would be a half gallon or 2 quarts. What did I say it was in liters? I think 1.9 liters, something like that. So that'll help cool it down too. Adding just room temperature water will help cool it down. And then remember, so the last step after you add the water is you're going to add the juice of your last lemon. So you're not actually zesting anything. You're not keeping the peel of any of the fruit. So in this case, you add the last of your water. You squeeze the juice of one last lemon into it, and then you cool it down. So it needs to be cooled down to pitching temperature. Check your yeast packet. It will tell you. Generally speaking, I like to pitch yeast around 75 degrees whenever possible. So while it's still warm and you added that next half gallon of water to top it up to 1 gallon, throw in some sugar. And I'll be back with what I feel is the amount of sugar that we should be adding for carbonation. I'll be back. All right, everybody. So I did a little bit of rechecking, and I checked my notes that I normally use. So on a normal basis, my general rule of thumb is for priming, you want to use 1 ounce of table sugar. And remember, if you use a different kind of sweetener for bottle conditioning, it's going to change then how much you need of it. I'm specifically talking about table sugar. So for every gallon of liquid, you want 1 ounce of table sugar. However, it can vary depending on how much carbonation you want. This is supposed to be basically like a soda, so I want to have a little higher carbonation than like a beer. So I'm actually going to go with 1.5 ounces for the whole gallon. So once I finish straining it all out, I'll add half a gallon more of water to it. That'll cool it off, and it'll also bring the entire volume to 1 gallon. I'll put in the last juice from 1 lemon, and then I'm going to throw in 1.5 ounces of table sugar and let it cool down to 75 degrees at least, maybe even a little lower. 70 would be even better. And then I'm going to pitch a packet of yeast, and then I'm going to bottle it up. I'll be back to explain how I'm going to bottle it up in a bit. All right, by the way, guys, I just had to show you this. In case you're wondering, because I said sugar-free or nearly sugar-free, and in case you're here for that reason, this is 1.5 ounces of table sugar. Just to give you some perspective. So this is what's going to carbonate your 1 gallon of ginger beer. All right, guys, so I've strained everything out. I've added the 1.5 ounces of table sugar into the hot liquid so it'll melt and integrate. And I've added the last juice of 1 lemon into this. All right, so we're gonna top this up with the exact same amount of water that's in here. So it's gonna bring this up to 1 gallon or 1.8 or 9 liters of liquid. And then I'm gonna throw the yeast in once it hits about 70 to 75-ish degrees. We're gonna whisk it for a good 5 minutes to try to make sure that that yeast really has a chance to hydrate. That's really what I want to see. Even a little bit of foaming from the yeast will be good. And then I'm going to use literally, and I'll show you the bottles and stuff that I'm going to use, but I'm literally going to use a funnel and just pour this into each bottle. All right, I'll be back to show you the bottling setup, and then I'll go bottle it all up. All right, guys, we're at the end stages here. So I have about 9 bottles here that are clean that just need to be sanitized. And what I'll do, a little pro tip, if you've saved your sanitizer from when you did like the last run you did and you have like a spray bottle full of it, you can just spray the bottle inside, rinse it out, and you're good to go. You don't have to like make a huge batch of sanitizer. This is the tester I was talking about. This is only 12 ounces. I usually do the 20-ounce bottle so that it matches the beer. Yeah, it's what I have. It's clean. I'll just sanitize it. And then I will, by the way, you can reuse these a few times, but eventually you're going to want to replace it because it is plastic, and I don't know, if this is BPA free or anything, so I wouldn't trust it. But so we'll fill this one up as well, and that's why I was saying, like right now, you can push on it because it's empty, but as it starts to ferment and carbonate, it will start to build pressure, and when you go to push on it, you will be having a harder and harder time, squeezing it until it gets hard, like it's an unopened bottle, and that's when should be done carbonating. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take bottle caps, put them in some sanitizer as I go. The reason I do that is because supposedly these bottle caps have these linings on them that are oxygen removing. Like as soon as you wet them in the sanitizer and you seal up the bottle, they supposedly are activated and they're supposed to remove the little excess amount of oxygen in the top of the bottle. Honestly, I don't believe it's true. They don't look any different to me than any other bottle cap. So honestly, I think it's a bunch of hogwash. But I just got them as a, as a lark, to see what would happen. So all I'm going to do is take my bottle, take the funnel, pour in enough to get, somewhere in the neck here, give it like an inch neck space, bottle it, done, right? And then it will just sit out on the counter for like a couple days, waiting for this guy to become, pressurized. And then once this guy is pressurized, I'll put the rest of the bottles, except for one, in the fridge, including the tester. And then the tester will be the first one I drink. And then the one that I sit out is really just a test for me. I want to see if the fact that, there's mostly just unfermentable sugar in this, if it'll be shelf stable. If I leave it out for like a week, does it become overcarbonated, or is it, do I need to reduce the amount of priming sugar I put in, or is it actually trying to ferment the allulose? So we'll find out. All right, I'm excited. We'll see you here in about a week. All right, guys, so I wanted to do one last shot here before I go to bed for the night. So obviously when you do eventually pour these, you're going to have to be careful to not disturb the sediment, and you should be fine. Most of it will flocculate to the bottom, and just like a homebrew. All right, welcome to the final day and of the testing. So it's been about 24 hours after I filled my bottles. That this one, the tester, has really got what I would say hard. Like I can squeeze it, but this is harder than even like a soda would be. So it could possibly geyser. That's the first thing. Second thing is, so because of that, because it's so hard, I think that instead of doing 1.5 ounces of sugar for priming, next time I would recommend 1 ounce of sugar for the gallon. I think would work fine. I think this was a little too much for priming. It's going to be too carbonated. That's the first thing. Second thing is I noticed a lot more sediment in the bottom. I don't want to shake this too much because sitting in the refrigerator helped it all to settle to the bottom. But I think next time what I would recommend doing, what I'll try, is putting all of the ingredients into a milk bag and then simmering like sort of like a big tea bag, simmering that bag in your water instead of trying to just filter through the bag afterwards, and see if that helps with containing some of the sediment. That being said, I want to open this before it gets warmer. I want to taste it, and gosh, I hope it doesn't explode on me here. That'll be fun. Here we go. Oh! All right, no explosion. I don't know if you could hear that, but it definitely had carbonation. So, I mean, when you pour these, there's going to be some sediment no matter what. You just pour nice and easy, and as soon as you start to see some of that sediment from the bottom get closer and closer, you make the call on when you want to. See, I can see it right there. So you can see the sediment in the bottom there. It got a little shaken up, but it's just going to be that way, right? And this is only a 12-ounce bottle, smaller than the beer bottles, so. But that's definitely more, true, whatever you want to call it, than I would get with beer. Plus, I did see a little bit of, like, there's some, I can see right here a piece of ginger, which is fine. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. It is super carbonated, though. Yeah, I don't know if I can really show you that well. I mean, obviously it's not clear, but that's fine. But it is really, I mean, you can see the bubbles, so it's nicely carbonated. I already got a little bit of taste when I licked my finger there. Tasted good. I can see a piece, like a big piece. There we go. I think I got it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not like it's going to hurt you. It's just, you know what you put in it, so none of it's going to hurt you. Guys, I got to tell you, to me, I'm just trying to get the other piece of big, there we go, got it. I got to tell you, it really doesn't taste any different than the version that was made fully with sugar. It has that nice, really nice burn that you get only with real, with real ginger. I mean, it's a heat that it can only describe. It warms up the very back of your throat, your tonsils and whatnot. And the taste, perfect carbonation. So I'm super, super excited about this because I can make this now all the time and I don't have to worry about the sugar content. It's going to have way less calories in it because you've pulled all the sugar out. And it's all natural. There's no preservatives. And it tastes amazing. Again, with the beer bottle, you're going to get more like more of a glass full. This one was only a 12-ounce, plastic tester, so it won't be as much. Oh, man, you guys, you got to try this. It's amazing. I mean, it is seriously amazing. All right. I wish I could, send you all a bottle to try because it's that good. But if you're able to try it yourself, man, I recommend it. If you like ginger and you like ginger ale, man, this is good stuff. All right, so hope you try it. If you do, put in the comments what you think. Tell me what you like. If you do something different, if you add something different to it, you try another version of some sort of experiment with it, maybe a different kind of non-fermentable sugar. I don't know. Put it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you're doing, and that's how we all learn and come up with new ideas. So until next time, thanks for going on this experimental journey with me, and as always, happy brewing.